If your legs feel weaker than they did just a year ago, I want you to listen very carefully, because what you're experiencing may not be just aging. It might be something you are eating every single day. And the truth is, most people don't even realize it until it's too late. They wake up one morning and notice something small. Getting out of a chair feels harder. Climbing stairs takes more effort. Walking across a parking lot suddenly feels longer than it used to. At first, it's easy to ignore. You tell yourself, well, I'm getting older. This is normal. But then, slowly, it gets worse. You start holding onto railings. You hesitate before stepping off a curb. You feel unsteady in places where you used to feel completely confident. And one day, a simple thought crosses your mind. What's happening to my legs? I remember a patient, 68 years old. Just a few years earlier, he was active, independent, and proud of it. He walked every day, did his own shopping, even helped his neighbors with yard work. But over time, things changed. Not dramatically, not suddenly, just slowly, quietly. He wasn't sick, no major diagnosis, no injury, but his legs were getting weaker. And when we looked closer, the cause wasn't what he expected. It wasn't his age. It was his diet. Here's something most people don't talk about enough. After the age of 60, your body begins to lose muscle mass naturally. This condition is called sarcopenia, and it's more common than you think. Every year you can lose about 1 to 2% of your muscle. That may not sound like much, but over 5 or 10 years, it adds up. And when it affects your legs, it doesn't just change how you move. It changes how you live. Your legs are your independence. They allow you to walk, to balance, to stand, to go where you want without asking for help. So when they weaken, life starts to shrink. But here's the part that should concern you. That natural muscle loss can accelerate much faster, depending on what you eat. There are certain foods that don't just fail to support your muscles. They actively destroy them. Let me explain what's really happening inside your body, because once you understand this, everything will make sense. Muscle is not just about exercise, it's about what your body is able to build and what it is forced to break down. And 3 major things control that balance: inflammation, insulin, and nutrition. Let's start with inflammation. You've probably heard that word before, but what does it really mean? Think of inflammation as a constant, low-level fire inside your body. When you're younger, your body can put that fire out quickly. But as you age, that fire becomes harder to control. And certain foods make it worse. When inflammation stays high for too long, your body begins to break down muscle tissue. Not overnight, but slowly, quietly, day by day. That's why some people feel weaker, even if they haven't changed their activity level. Now let's talk about insulin. Every time you eat sugar or refined carbohydrates, your blood sugar rises. Your body releases insulin to manage it. But over time, especially after 60, your body becomes less sensitive to insulin. This is called insulin resistance. And when that happens, your muscles don't get the nutrients they need. Instead of building muscle, your body starts breaking it down. You may not see it immediately, but you feel it. In your legs, in your strength, in your balance. And then there's something even more subtle. It's called the protein dilution effect. Many older adults eat enough calories, but not enough protein. Their meals are filled with bread, pasta, snacks, and processed foods, but very little of what the muscles actually need. So even if you're eating regularly, your muscles are slowly starving. Now let's talk about the foods that are causing this damage, because this is where most people are making mistakes, without realizing it. The first one is sugar, not just desserts, not just candy. I'm talking about the hidden sugars in everyday foods: breakfast cereals, flavored yogurts, packaged snacks, soft drinks, even foods that are marketed as healthy. Sugar doesn't just affect your weight, it disrupts your metabolism, it increases inflammation, and it interferes with your body's ability to maintain muscle. Every time your blood sugar spikes, your body shifts into a state that makes it harder to preserve muscle tissue. Over time, that leads to weakness, especially in your legs. The second group is ultra-processed foods. These are foods that come in packages, with long ingredient lists you can barely pronounce. Frozen meals, chips, fast food, ready-to-eat snacks. They are convenient, they taste good, but they are one of the biggest threats to your muscle health. Why? Because they are low in quality protein, high in unhealthy fats, and loaded with additives that increase inflammation. You may feel full after eating them, but your muscles are not being nourished, and over time, they begin to break down. Next are refined carbohydrates: white bread, white rice, pastries, crackers. These foods digest quickly and spike your blood sugar. They don't provide sustained energy, and they don't support muscle maintenance. In fact, they do the opposite. They push your body into cycles of high and low blood sugar, which contributes to insulin resistance. And as we discussed earlier, that directly impacts your muscle strength. Another important one, alcohol. This one surprises a lot of people because they think it's just a glass of wine. And occasionally, that's not the issue. But regular alcohol consumption, even moderate, can interfere with muscle protein synthesis. In simple terms, it makes it harder for your body to build and repair muscle. It also affects your balance, coordination, and recovery. Over time, that combination increases the risk of falls and loss of independence. And then we come to one of the biggest problems of all. Not what you eat too much of, but what you don't eat enough of. Protein. After 60, your body needs more protein, not less. But many people eat less. They skip protein at breakfast. They eat light lunches. They rely on carbs and snacks throughout the day. And the result is simple. Their body doesn't have the building blocks it needs to maintain muscle, so it starts breaking down what it already has, especially in the legs. But here's the good news. This process is not permanent. You can slow it down, you can even reverse part of it, and it starts with what you put on your plate. If you want to rebuild your leg strength, your body needs one thing above all else: consistent, high-quality protein. Not once a day, not occasionally, every single meal. Eggs, fish, chicken, lean meat, Greek yogurt, beans. These foods give your muscles the raw materials they need to repair and grow. And yes, even after 60, your body is still capable of building muscle. You just have to give it the right tools. Next, you need to reduce inflammation. And that means choosing foods that calm your body, not inflame it. Fresh vegetables, berries, nuts, olive oil. These foods support your system instead of stressing it. They help protect your muscles instead of breaking them down. You also need key nutrients that support muscle function: vitamin D, magnesium, omega-3 fatty acids. These are often overlooked, but they play a major role in strength, balance, and recovery. Many older adults are deficient in these without even knowing it, and correcting that can make a noticeable difference. But let me be clear about something. Food alone is not enough. Your muscles need a reason to stay strong. That means movement, simple movement, walking, standing. Light resistance exercises. You don't need a gym. You don't need intense workouts, but you do need consistency, because when you combine proper nutrition with regular movement, your body responds. Even in your 60s, 70s, 80s, I've seen it happen. People who thought their strength was gone for good slowly regain it, step by step, meal by meal, day by day. So if your legs feel weaker, don't ignore it. Don't accept it as just aging. Look at what you're eating. Because the truth is, some of those foods are quietly taking your strength away, and the sooner you change that, the more you can protect what matters most. Your legs are not just muscles. They are your freedom. They are your independence. They are your ability to live life on your own terms. So the next time you sit down to eat, ask yourself one simple question: is this helping my strength or taking it away? Because your future might depend on that answer. Let me tell you something most people don't realize until it's too late. Losing leg strength doesn't start when you fall. It starts long before that. It starts when your muscles quietly begin to shrink, when your balance becomes just a little less stable, when your steps become just a little slower. And the problem is, these changes are so subtle, you don't notice them right away. Until one day, something small happens. You trip on a step, you struggle to get up from a low chair, or you catch yourself reaching for support without even thinking. That's not just a random moment, that's a warning. There are actually early signs your legs are losing strength, and most people ignore them. For example, do you find yourself pushing off your thighs when standing up? Do you avoid stairs more than you used to? Do you feel less steady when walking on uneven ground? These are not just minor changes. They are your body telling you something is happening beneath the surface, and often, diet is playing a much bigger role than people think. One of the most dangerous myths I hear all the time is this: as long as I'm eating enough, I'm fine. But that's simply not true, because your body doesn't just care about how much you eat, it cares about what you eat. You can eat 3 full meals a day and still be undernourishing your muscles. Let's go back to something very important: protein. Because this is where so many people over 60 go wrong. They don't eat enough of it, and even when they do, they don't spread it throughout the day. Instead, they might eat a little protein at dinner, and almost none at breakfast or lunch. But your body doesn't store protein the same way it stores fat. It needs a steady supply. Every meal is an opportunity to support your muscles, or to neglect them. And when you skip protein again and again, your body adapts by breaking down your own muscle tissue, especially in your legs. Now, there's another issue that doesn't get talked about enough: loss of appetite. As you get older, your hunger signals change. You may not feel as hungry as you used to. You might eat smaller portions or skip meals without realizing it. And while that may seem harmless, it can quietly accelerate muscle loss because your body still needs nutrients, even if you don't feel hungry. Let me share something important from clinical experience. The people who maintain strong legs into their 70s and 80s are not necessarily the ones who exercise the hardest. They are the ones who are consistent. Consistent with what they eat, consistent with how they move, consistent with small daily habits that protect their strength. And then there's hydration. This one is often overlooked, but dehydration can affect muscle function more than you think. It can lead to fatigue, cramping, and reduced performance. And many older adults simply don't drink enough water because they don't feel thirsty. But thirst is not always a reliable signal as you age. So if you're not paying attention to hydration, your muscles may already be affected. Let's talk about another hidden factor: vitamin D. This is critical for muscle strength and balance. Low levels of vitamin D have been linked to increased risk of falls and weakness in the lower body. And here's the surprising part: a large number of older adults are deficient without even knowing it, because vitamin D doesn't always cause obvious symptoms, but over time it can contribute to declining strength. Magnesium is another one. It supports muscle contraction and relaxation. Without enough magnesium, your muscles may feel weaker, tighter, or more prone to cramping. And again, many people don't get enough from their diet. Now, I want to address something that may be uncomfortable, but it's important: pride. Many people don't like to admit they're getting weaker. They don't want to change their habits. They don't want to think something as simple as food could be affecting them this much. So they ignore it. They continue eating the same way they always have. And slowly, their strength fades. But here's the truth: your body is always responding to what you do. Every meal is a signal. Every choice is a direction. You are either supporting your muscles or you are allowing them to decline. And the most powerful part of this story is this: you still have control, even now. Even if you've already started to feel weaker, even if you've noticed changes, your body can respond, your muscles can rebuild, your strength can improve, but it requires awareness, and it requires action. Let's make this very simple. Starting today, focus on 3 things. First, make sure every meal includes protein, not just dinner. Breakfast matters, lunch matters. Even a small amount can make a difference over time. Second, reduce the foods that are working against you: the sugars, the processed foods, the refined carbs. You don't have to eliminate everything overnight, but you do need to become aware, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Third, move your body daily. Even if it's just walking, even if it's standing up and sitting down a few extra times, your muscles respond to use, and they weaken when they are ignored. You don't need perfection, you need consistency. I want you to imagine something. A year from now, 2 possible futures. In one, you continue as you are. Same habits, same foods, same routine, and your legs get just a little weaker, your balance just a little worse, your independence just a little smaller. In the other future, you make small changes, you eat with intention, you move with purpose, and slowly, your strength stabilizes, maybe even improves. You feel more confident, more steady, more in control. Both futures are possible. The difference is what you do next. So before your next meal, before your next snack, pause for just a moment and ask yourself, is this helping me stay strong? Or is this quietly taking my strength away? Because the answer to that question will shape how you walk, how you move, and how you live.